Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. We have Larry Coon with us, who's the writer for ESPN.com and the resident expert on the NBA CBA. Larry, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
Hey, well, my pleasure. Let's get right into it and talk a little bit about Kobe Bryant and the implications that he has on the Lakers with his contract and his injury and how that's going to play out.
Yeah, first of all, let's talk about it without the injury. If Kobe Bryant was still healthy, he was obviously going to play out the 2013-14 season. And then the Lakers have a decision to make because they have a 2014 plan. If you look at their contracts, all of them line up, except for Steve Nash, who can be disposed of, to put it bluntly. All of them line up so that they end and the Lakers are going to go shopping in 2014. They want to re-sign Dwight, have him be the only guy in the cap, and then build around him, maybe either keep Nash or waive him, what's called stretch his salary to get most of that off the cap in 2014. Then they have cap room, hello LeBron, hello Carmelo, whoever they want to go out and try and sign. But what do they do with Kobe? Do they want to keep him after 2014? If they do, they have to deal with him before going shopping because his free agent amount, his cap hold, will be on their cap and it will keep them from spending money on other free agents. So do they want him back for less? Do they re-sign him for less? Is he going to re-sign for less? Who knows? That was before the injury. And then the injury changes everything because now he's out for a while. We're not quite sure how long, but typically this is a one-year injury. Very few players come back from this sort of thing and be the kind of player that they were in less than a year. You can say, okay, Dominique Wilkins is one guy who came back, but people still take that full year. You look at Chauncey Billups. You know, he was out for a year. He tried to come back. He still went back out, and he's still not the guy, you know, the 36, 37, whatever year old he was. So what kind of guy are the Lakers going to get once he does come back, and when is that going to be? Is it going to be at the beginning of the season? Is it going to be February? Is it going to be for the playoffs? All these really play into their decision because they do have one option at their disposal, which is amnesty. It would be an extreme option, but the Lakers are looking at paying $85 million in luxury tax if they're $30 million over the tax line again. Amnesty and Kobe would take away that entire 85. It would bring back mid-level exceptions. It would bring back sign and trade. It would bring back the ability for the Lakers to go out and help the team right away at the cost of Kobe Bryant. So the decision is, what's Kobe going to be? If he's going to be out for the full year, he's going to come back as a shell of himself in March or April, then they have to give some serious thought to this whole amnesty question because they would lose their bird rights to him. They can't have him play during the year, but if he's not going to play over the year anyways, and they're not going to re-sign him for $30 million anyways, then they don't have a lot to lose and a lot to gain. You know, there's a PR hit, which I understand perfectly, and that's something weighing, you know, against them. There's, okay, you don't want to piss him off, maybe, but if he's going to be out the year, then I think it's something they at least have to consider seriously. If he's going to be back at the start of the year or close to the start of the year, let's say December, January, at some semblance of himself, then I think it's a no-brainer that they don't amnesty him. They look at it using amnesty on Middle World Peace instead, save $30 million of their tax, hobble through the year, sorry, no pun intended, and look to see what they're going to do in 2014 anyways. But there's a lot of gray area in between. What if it's February that he comes back and he's going to be 80% of himself? You know, there's a lot of nuance. Where do you draw the line between it makes sense to think about amnesty versus it makes sense to play out the year with what you have?
I certainly think if it could take into consideration whether or not Dwight Howard wants to play with Kobe, it seemed like there were times when that was a real problem of a relationship. And so if the Lakers are really committed to signing Dwight again, I just wonder how much of an effect that will have on whether Kobe is still around.
I think they're going to feel out Dwight and get some indication. Is he happy with Kobe? Is he happy with Mike D'Antoni? You know, they're saying that Mike D'Antoni is secure in the Lakers job. I think that if Dwight were to say, I don't think I can play for him, you're going to see him, you know, on the first train out of LA. But I also think that Dwight is very sensitive to his reputation as somebody who got a coach fired, who got Stan Van Gundy fired in Orlando. Even though I think that was a little bit of a bum rap, I think he's very sensitive, and he doesn't want to be the guy who ran Mike D'Antoni out of LA as well.
Well, let's talk about Andrew Bynum now, because he didn't play at all last year, as far as I know, and has a problematic knee.
He bowled.
He bowled. He very much bowled, and he grew his hair. And so now people are thinking that he might actually get a max contract on the market without ever having played all this past year. What's your thoughts on that?
Teams have an out clause. There is a clause in a standard contract. It's called an Exhibit 3, which is an injury exclusion. Minnesota got that with Brandon Roy, where they signed him. They gave him a good salary, but they put that Exhibit 3 in there saying that if we waive you, and it's because of the same injury that you have now to your knee, and they listed all the medical conditions that it could be, then we can waive you and not owe you all that salary. This is the perfect kind of thing for Andrew Bynum, where they're going to be willing to give him the salary, but with an Exhibit 3 that says, if you don't come back because of your knee and we waive you, then that salary isn't guaranteed. So if you're Andrew Bynum's agent, then you're negotiating to keep that Exhibit 3 out or keep it limited. Then if you're the Sixers, you're negotiating to say, okay, if you don't want an Exhibit 3, how much salary are you willing to give up? Somewhere in the middle, there's a point at which the salary is agreeable and the conditions on Exhibit 3 are agreeable, where teams are going to be willing to sign him.
Really interesting. So, it sounds like there are a lot of teams out there that are interested in a 7-foot center that can score and rebound.
Go figure.
So I still can't figure it though, based on the whole issues he's had with, even when he's healthy, the issues he's had both in his head and the way he plays, that he would actually command that much interest. But you're right. You have to look into consideration that he's a big guy who's mobile and he can run. Let's talk a little bit about GMs and that whole landscape, because it's been a fascinating story out of Denver with Masai Ujiri. What's happening there with him in Toronto and these suitors that are trying to get him out of his position? Yeah,
Tim Lewicki took over as president of the Raptors, and he wants to make changes. He was the person who was in charge of, with AEG, in charge of Staples Center and that whole organization prior to him taking over here. He immediately got in touch with Phil Jackson, tried to bring him over there. He's looking for a great GM. They had Brian Colangelo there. They let him go, and the first call they make is to the current executive of the year, Masai Ujiri, in Denver. They got permission to talk to him, and then they offered him a pretty sweet deal. I think it's 6 times what he was making with Denver.
Wow.
So making it really compelling for him to move. So from what I hear, Masai is giving the Nuggets the chance to match. He's talking to Josh Kroenke about it, and if the Nuggets match, then I think he would stay. That's my guess. But if they don't, or if it's not even close, then I think that the Raptors have a good shot at keeping him. So the Nuggets organization is sort of famous as being pretty small. There's really only 3 guys who are the main guys in that Nuggets front office: Masai, Pete D'Alessandro, and Josh himself. So that would leave a pretty big hole in the Nuggets organization if it happens, because you're losing 33% or even a greater percentage if you want to say he's the biggest part of it. And that alone might make it so that the Nuggets might have to bite the bullet. Then my question is going to be, does this change the landscape for GMs league-wide? Phil Jackson sort of did that for coaches. He signed with the Lakers for these $10+ million salaries, and then other coaches, the Adelmans and the George Karls and everybody else started getting a lot more money as being a head coach. I think that this could see the same thing happening with the GMs, where I think it's deserved. I think that there needs to be some recognition there that these are the guys putting the teams together, and if the players are earning $10+ million for their contribution on the court, the guys in the front offices who are really making it so that these teams are competing in the first place deserve their fair share also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that there's not enough attention paid to the infrastructure of the team in both coaching and general managing, as far as how that's going to be, how valuable that is to winning, which also brings up a whole other conversation, is whether or not the organization wants to win or whether they want to make money. And Larry, do you think those two things go together?
I think that in some respects they're at odds with each other. If a team wins, obviously there's a lot of financial advantage that goes with it. You're playing deeper into the playoffs, and you're getting a little bit more playoff revenue. You're getting, you're selling a lot more jerseys if you're in the finals, things like that. On the other hand, if you're spending a lot of money on a roster and you're not winning, that's the kiss of death. A lot of teams have traditionally played it so that they will try to make money without necessarily competing. The Clippers are a great example of that. Recent history notwithstanding, they were a team that was really well run as a business in terms of they were consistently turning a profit year after year after year. They're renters in Staples Center behind the Lakers. In fact, some of their revenue actually goes to the Lakers because they're part owners. But they were consistently making money, and their franchise was consistently appreciating in value, which was keeping Donald Sterling happy. He's now seeing that you could all still be making money while putting a competitive team on the floor. Now that he has Chris Paul in place, now that he has Blake Griffin, and they're selling those jerseys, and they're bringing in those crowds, and they're potentially, didn't happen this year, but potentially going to be playing deeper into the playoffs. So we'll see how that plays out for them.
Well, terrific stuff again from Larry Coon, author of the NBA CBA FAQ. Check it out if you have any questions. And also, you can tweet him at Larry Coon, and he will most likely respond. So just like him and me, don't forget that Beat Ball Breakdown is not a channel, it's a conversation. You in? You in, Larry?
I'm in.